Inside the Serapeum, you have 25 of these things, which are these single-piece, like 100-ton granite boxes. They're insane. It's absolutely insane.
Deep beneath the sands of Egypt lies a mystery that has left scientists speechless and historians unsettled. Hidden in torch-lit tunnels stand dozens of granite boxes so huge and so perfect that even modern engineers can't fully explain how they were made.
24 mighty, precision-carved, single-piece stone boxes and matching gigantic lids, combined weighing up to 100 tons, most of which are finished and polished so well that they are still reflecting light after millennia in the dust.
Some were found empty. Others held strange organic traces that no one expected. Were these tombs, machines, or something else entirely? What did the ancients really build here, and why? Join us. The tomb beneath the sand. Beneath the blistering sands of Saqqara, Egypt's ancient necropolis hides something that even the most seasoned archaeologists could hardly believe. In 1850, a French archaeologist named Auguste Mariette stumbled upon a forgotten tunnel complex, dark, silent, and sealed by centuries of sand. Inside it, he found 24 massive granite boxes, each one larger than a small car, weighing up to 70 tons. Their surfaces gleamed as if they had been polished yesterday. Their corners met at perfect right angles, and their lids were so finely fitted that not even a razor blade could slip between them. What were these enormous boxes doing buried beneath the desert? Who made them, and how? And most of all, what could possibly be inside them? Mariette hadn't set out to find a mystery that would defy explanation for over a century. He was searching for the legendary Serapeum, a burial site said to hold the mummified remains of the Apis bulls, animals revered in ancient Egyptian religion as living symbols of the god Ptah. After weeks of digging through sand-choked shafts and collapsed tunnels, his workers broke into a long underground corridor cut deep into the limestone bedrock. When Mariette's torchlight pierced the darkness, it revealed chamber after chamber lined with monumental stone boxes, each resting in its own niche. The flickering light caught the black sheen of Aswan granite, creating the eerie impression that he was standing in a place built for gods, not men. The Serapeum's layout was unlike anything else from ancient Egypt. The main gallery stretched hundreds of feet into the rock, with side passages branching off like the arteries of a giant subterranean body. The air was heavy, still and cool, carrying the faint smell of dust and mineral. The boxes, sarcophagi, Mariette assumed, were precisely aligned, as if placed there with mathematical intention. Their lids alone weighed up to 30 tons, yet many were still perfectly positioned on top of their bases, unmoved by time or earthquakes. For the 19th century world, this discovery was staggering. The idea that people working with bronze tools thousands of years ago could carve and move blocks of stone heavier than a steam locomotive seemed almost impossible. At first, Mariette believed he had found the long-lost burial vaults of the Apis bulls. The historical record supported this. Ancient texts mentioned that each Apis bull, considered a sacred incarnation of Ptah, was ceremoniously mummified and buried in the Serapeum with elaborate rituals. Pharaohs from the 18th dynasty onward were said to have commissioned these tombs as acts of devotion. The massive boxes, carved from solid granite, would have been fitting containers for such divine creatures, and for many decades, this explanation stood unchallenged. But as archaeologists continued exploring the site, cracks began to appear, figuratively and literally, in that neat interpretation. When the boxes were opened, most of them were empty. There were no bull mummies, no treasure, no funerary goods, and no inscriptions linking them to a specific Apis burial. In some, the lids had been shifted slightly, suggesting they might have been opened in antiquity, but there was no sign of robbery. Others were perfectly sealed, yet held nothing but air. If these truly were sarcophagi, why had the burials vanished? And if they weren't, what purpose could justify the staggering effort required to create them? The more closely these granite giants were examined, the stranger they seemed. Modern engineers who have studied their construction describe them with a kind of reluctant awe. Each box was hewn from a single block of Aswan granite, material so hard that it ranks around 6.5 on the Mohs scale, meaning it cannot be cut cleanly by copper tools alone. The internal surfaces were perfectly square, the walls parallel within fractions of a millimeter. Laser scans revealed that the flatness of the interiors was accurate to within microns, a level of precision comparable to modern machining. The corners were crisp, the symmetry exact, and the polish so fine that the stone reflected light like a mirror. Even with today's diamond-tipped saws, achieving such perfection on that scale would be a monumental challenge. How could ancient workers, supposedly equipped only with chisels, hammers, and sand, achieve this? Egyptologists point to experimental archaeology, showing that copper saws coated with quartz sand can slowly grind through granite, and that teams using wooden sledges, ropes, and wet sand could haul massive loads across the desert. These methods have been demonstrated on smaller blocks, proving that patience and organization can accomplish remarkable things. But skeptics argue that the Serapeum boxes push those explanations to their limits. The tight internal corners, the optical polish, and the absence of visible tool marks suggest methods that go beyond what has been experimentally replicated. Some engineers claim the surfaces look as though they were machined, not hand-cut. The suggestion of lost technology has, unsurprisingly, ignited fierce debate. To this day, archaeologists remain cautious. They acknowledge the box's extraordinary craftsmanship, but attribute it to an extreme refinement of known techniques, perhaps a forgotten system of abrasive sawing or a level of precision demanded by ritual, not mechanics. Yet, the air of mystery persists because these boxes stand alone. No other site in Egypt contains stonework quite like it. The Great Pyramid's internal chambers show precision, yes, but nothing matching the flawless geometry of the Serapeum's granite monoliths. They appear almost industrial, as though built for a purpose beyond burial. Then came an even greater shock, one that added a new layer to the enigma. In recent years, when researchers reopened some of the less disturbed boxes for scientific testing, they detected faint residues inside, traces of organic matter, microscopic layers of what appeared to be fermented compounds, and peculiar abrasions on the interior walls. Chemical analysis revealed that these residues contained proteins and organic acids consistent with animal tissue or embalming materials. Yet, there were no bones, no wrappings, and no clear indication of what had once rested there. It was as though the boxes had held something living, or something that had undergone a process entirely different from ordinary burial. What these findings mean is still uncertain. Some archaeologists interpret the residues as the remains of partial or symbolic offerings made during Apis rituals, perhaps libations poured inside the sarcophagus during ceremonies. Others have proposed that the boxes were used for a form of ritual fermentation or alchemical preparation, their sealed interiors serving to transform organic matter over time. More speculative voices suggest they might have been part of an ancient technological or acoustic system, their precision designed to manipulate sound or energy in ways not yet understood. Were these boxes ever meant to contain physical remains at all? Were they instruments of ritual power, symbols of divine perfection, or artifacts of an ancient science lost to history? And what are the odds that we may never find out? Echoes of the Apis bulls. The Serapeum, long considered little more than a burial vault for sacred bulls, has emerged as something far more complex, far more deliberate, and far more advanced than anyone had imagined. Newly reanalyzed data, high-resolution scans, and even ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed design features that defy conventional understanding. If these underground monuments truly were built over 3,000 years ago, what level of skill and motivation would have driven their creation? To understand the Serapeum, we first have to understand the Apis bull itself. In the religion of ancient Egypt, the Apis bull was a living manifestation of Ptah, the creator god, and later associated with Osiris, lord of the underworld. Chosen for its perfect markings, usually a black bull with a white diamond on its forehead, the Apis was pampered, revered, and kept in a temple until its death, when it was ceremoniously mummified and buried with honors befitting a god. Its burial site, the Serapeum, became the physical center of a belief system that fused life, death, and divine renewal. The bull was more than a symbol, it was a bridge between the human and the eternal. But even as religious texts and temple inscriptions describe the veneration of Apis, the physical evidence inside the Serapeum's granite boxes doesn't quite fit the story. The Serapeum's history spans centuries. It was originally established during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III in the 18th dynasty and was expanded multiple times, reaching its grandest form under Seti I, Ramesses II, and later Ptolemaic rulers. Each generation of pharaohs added new corridors, sealed chambers, and elaborate inscriptions, reinforcing the site's sacred purpose. Hieroglyphic stelae discovered near the entrance record the burial of individual bulls, complete with ceremonial dedications and offerings. Yet deep inside the tunnels, the actual sarcophagi remain stubbornly silent, smooth, undecorated, and devoid of the intricate carvings one would expect in royal or divine tombs. This absence of textual or iconographic detail fuels one of the greatest puzzles in Egyptology. If these boxes were meant to enshrine gods, why do they seem to reject every element of typical Egyptian funerary art? That contradiction brings us to the engineering itself. The granite used in the Serapeum came from Aswan, located roughly 500 miles south of Saqqara. Transporting such massive blocks across that distance in the ancient world would have required planning, coordination, and resources on a national scale. Egyptologists believe the stone was extracted using dolerite pounding stones, extremely hard rock tools that could chip away at granite over long periods. Once quarried, the blocks were likely shaped using copper saws coated in quartz sand, which acted as an abrasive. Experiments conducted in modern times show that this process can indeed slice through granite, but it is excruciatingly slow, demanding thousands of hours of grinding per cut. The workers would then have used sledges and wooden rollers, lubricated with water or milk, to drag the boxes across desert terrain, possibly along prepared paths or temporary ramps leading down into the Serapeum tunnels. But when we look closely at the Serapeum boxes, the challenge grows. Each one weighs between 60 and 70 tons, and their interiors display flatness and symmetry measurable at a level of precision that rivals modern machine tools. How could manual abrasion and basic copper saws produce such results? Experimental archaeologists have demonstrated remarkable feats with simple tools, recreating smaller stone vessels and even aligning blocks with millimeter-level accuracy, but the Serapeum boxes go beyond replication. The internal corners form perfect right angles, the walls are parallel within microns, and the polish reflects light like glass. Engineers analyzing laser scans of the surfaces admit they cannot easily reproduce this precision at the same scale without power tools or computer-guided machines. Could it be that ancient craftsmen possessed techniques now lost to history? Or is it possible that we are underestimating the sheer discipline and artistry of ancient stoneworkers? One popular hypothesis suggests the Egyptians used a method akin to lapping, rubbing two granite surfaces together with abrasive paste until both became perfectly flat. Another theory speculates that the craftsmen used sound or vibration to aid in cutting and smoothing the stone, an idea inspired by ancient texts that describe priests singing to the stones during temple construction. Though this remains speculative, it reflects the growing curiosity about whether the Egyptians might have harnessed natural forces, acoustic, mechanical, or even chemical, in ways we no longer understand. Yet, mainstream Egyptology remains cautious, emphasizing that human ingenuity and devotion, not forgotten machines, are the true explanation. Every block, they argue, is evidence of a civilization willing to devote unimaginable effort to express its faith in physical form. And that brings us to the symbolic dimension of these granite boxes. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, the cube, or rectangular box, was a powerful form. It represented stability, eternity, and the unchanging order of the universe, known as Ma'at. Temples, shrines, and even the inner sanctuaries of gods were built according to geometric principles, reflecting this eternal order. The Serapeum's boxes may have been literal representations of divine containment, structures meant to hold the vital essence, or Ka, of the Apis bull even after its physical form had decayed. To the ancient Egyptians, perfection in stone was a spiritual act. By crafting an object of flawless geometry, they were mirroring the perfection of creation itself. But what if that perfection wasn't just symbolic? What if the box's precision was functional, designed to serve a purpose beyond aesthetics or faith? Some researchers propose that their sealed interiors created acoustic effects that amplified sound in ritual ceremonies. Others speculate they were meant to preserve organic materials in a controlled environment, their tight lids acting as primitive pressure chambers. Could the Egyptians have understood the principles of resonance, vibration, and containment on a level we're only beginning to rediscover? Sound experiments inside the Serapeum reveal that the granite boxes resonate deeply when struck, producing frequencies that can be felt in the chest. Whether this was intentional or simply a byproduct of design remains unknown, but the coincidence is hard to ignore. What's clear is that the Serapeum defies simple classification. It was both a temple and a tomb, both a work of devotion and a feat of engineering. Its existence challenges our assumptions about ancient technology by reminding us how much can be achieved through precision, persistence, and belief. The modern investigations. Over the past few years, a wave of 21st century research has reopened the Serapeum's silent tunnels and challenged nearly every assumption about their construction, and the findings have been nothing short of staggering. Advanced imaging has revealed microscopic tool patterns invisible to the naked eye, chemical residues hinting at complex embalming mixtures, and subtle electromagnetic responses inside the stone itself. Could it be that these boxes were instruments engineered for purposes we still struggle to understand? Let's begin with the latest analyses conducted during the 20s. Using portable spectrometers and micro-sampling techniques, researchers detected traces of organic materials embedded deep within the inner surfaces of some boxes, compounds consistent with oils and resins used in ancient embalming rituals. This is critical evidence. It supports the traditional belief that the boxes were connected to ritual burials, yet the lack of complete mummified remains complicates that conclusion. Alongside the organic residues, samples taken from the granite surface revealed small amounts of quartz, naturally present in the Aswan granite, but arranged in a way that may generate weak piezoelectric effects when pressure or vibration is applied. In simple terms, when the stone is struck or resonates, it produces a small electrical charge. Three-dimensional scanning has added another layer of fascination. By mapping the boxes down to sub-millimeter precision, engineers discovered patterns of symmetry and proportion that seem almost too perfect for hand tools. The corners are aligned to within thousandths of an inch. The internal chambers maintain parallelism, even where natural stone imperfections should have caused warping. And the box lids sit so flush that air cannot easily pass between them. When the scans were converted into digital renderings, the models revealed mathematical consistency, angles and ratios repeating across different boxes, as though the builders followed a standardized formula. Acoustic testing has also produced remarkable data. Scientists working in collaboration with Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities conducted resonance mapping inside the Serapeum tunnels. using controlled sound pulses. The results show that certain chambers amplify specific frequencies in the low bass range, around 40 to 60 Hz, vibrations that physically resonate in the human body. Some researchers believe these acoustic properties might have enhanced religious ceremonies, creating a literal hum of divinity when priests chanted or played drums. What's more, laser scanning performed in 2023 revealed a particularly intriguing anomaly. The inner surfaces of several boxes display symmetrical depressions so faint they can only be detected through digital imaging, suggesting the possibility of internal stress relief or controlled shaping, features typically seen in modern machining to prevent cracking under weight. To achieve this by hand would require not only extraordinary craftsmanship, but also an intuitive understanding of how granite behaves under compression. Even if done by trial and error, the success rate implied by the surviving boxes is astonishing. Despite these stunning observations, mainstream archaeology remains firm in its conclusions. The boxes are undoubtedly human-made, carved using tools and methods available during the New Kingdom and later dynasties. Yet, one question refuses to go away. Why such extreme precision? Why would ancient craftsmen pour this much effort into perfecting surfaces that were never meant to be seen, in chambers that would be sealed forever? It is here that science meets mystery. Some anthropologists suggest this level of craftsmanship reflects what they call ritual perfectionism, a belief that creating flawless forms brought order to the cosmos. By engineering perfection into their tombs, the Egyptians were, in essence, participating in the act of creation itself. Others propose a more practical explanation, that smooth interiors made it easier to move heavy lids or control temperature and humidity for preservation. Still others believe the builders achieved this precision not out of necessity, but reverence, as the perfection itself was the offering. But there is a final, more speculative idea gaining quiet traction among interdisciplinary researchers. Some physicists and materials scientists have proposed that the Egyptians may have been early empirical observers of what we now call harmonic resonance, the way solid structures naturally vibrate at specific frequencies. The boxes' uniformity, their density, and their placement within the underground chambers may have been designed to interact with sound and vibration, perhaps to enhance the spiritual atmosphere during rituals. Today, what we see in these granite monoliths is not evidence of forgotten machines, but of forgotten mindsets, a worldview in which science, art, and faith were one and the same. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the next video for more exciting content.